What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What's up, Fantasy Points? This is Outside the Box for NFL Week 9. Every week on the show, I chop it up with my friend, CEO of Fantasy Points and master of dank stats, Scott Barrett. We're going to be taking a look at tournament plays. The show is all about DFS tournaments on Draftkings. We're going to be going position by position, starting with quarterbacks. Then we'll go to running backs, receivers, tight ends. At the end, we will make some lineups, but we're going to take a look at the chalk, see if there's chalk that we like, chalk that we can get away from, and then try to find some more contrarian plays as we go. Scott Barrett, how are you doing today? Are you muted?
Yeah, but that wasn't me. That was the producer who muted me, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. We got no UFC. I mean, we got out early last week for the main event of the UFC card, and there was an immediate eye poke. So that was we don't have to do that this week, at least.
That was maybe the worst UFC main event of all time. It was the only time we ever had one end early. Yeah, it looked great for 4 minutes, and then had to call it from there.
Yeah, that was a brutal one, but yeah, we don't have that today, so we can.
Game 7 of the World Series, though.
What time does that start?
I don't know, 7 Eastern.
I am cheering for. Apologies to anybody in Los Angeles. I am cheering for the Blue Jays, for producer Tom. Just cheering for Tom's team because he's a huge Blue Jays fan, and I don't know that there are huge Dodgers fans. Maybe there are. Maybe it's a little bit different than. I mean, I guess there are huge Lakers fans too, but just in general, being from Minnesota, we tend to not cheer for teams from Los Angeles. They stole our Lakers from Minneapolis, so we hold a grudge there. Yeah, it was originally the Minneapolis Lakers. They, of course, went to Los Angeles.
1947.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, it was a long time. I have no idea actually when that was, but generally, I just think they've had enough. Honestly, is what it comes down to. They've won enough. They always have the superstar teams, so I'll cheer for Toronto for this one. Anything else? Anything you want to talk about from last week? I mean, I didn't have any big wins last week. I don't remember well, other than Breece Hall did well. The Jets stuff worked out kind of. Anything for you?
I think it was a pretty bad week for me. My guy Cam Scattaboo, suffered that horrific injury very early, and it just didn't look like my DFS lineups were doing great. So I tweeted out, I'm like, it's a quiche week, folks. That's when I just want to turn the TV off and just go bake a quiche with my wife. Losing Cam Scattaboo, who I had on like every single fantasy team, that looked like one of my best calls. Awful.
That was so terrible.
And got kind of rocked in DFS. So yeah, that kind of sucked.
Yeah. Silos, I see, has a Lakers avatar, says, wow. I just want to be clear. No hate for anybody from Los Angeles. I don't hate you if you're a big fan of the Dodgers or the Lakers. I just, as a small market guy, I tend to cheer for the smaller market teams. And Los Angeles has like 12 professional sports teams. So it's just like, come on, it's enough already. I'm going to cheer for Toronto to win this one. All right. We'll get into quarterbacks here. Again, we're going to start with the chalk. Jackson Dart projected for 13% ownership. He's 5,200. Pretty nice matchup here with San Francisco. How are we feeling about Jackson Dart this week?
Dude, hell yeah. I love Jackson Dart. And I know you guys, I could be a little self-congratulatory or whatever, but I tweeted out very early on that it was just clear to me that the Giants had found their franchise quarterback. I said I believed he had top 5 upside. I way too early in the process was like, guys, he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. Like, I know that should be illegal to say, but he reminds me of like a much more raw Patrick Mahomes. Like, if Patrick Mahomes started as a rookie and instead of having Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, he had ass. Like, that's who Jackson Dart remind. And I got trashed. Like, there were quote tweets, and the quote tweets had 1,000+ favorites, and I was getting clowned on. And then you watch Robert Saleh, you watch Kyle Shanahan earlier this week, just like throw heaps of praise. And it's like, no, they got a guy with that pick. They nailed that. Like, this guy's going to play in the league for a long time. He's awesome. He's special. And that's really how I felt. And like, from an NFL perspective, it's one thing. Yeah. Like I think he is a dude. And then from a fantasy perspective, he's balling out. Like, he has no supporting cast. He has no receivers. He ranks top 4 in fantasy points per dropback. He ranks top 4 in fantasy points per start. And now he draws a 49ers defense, the worst pass rush in football. CJ Stroud just had his best game since his rookie season against them. And so, yeah, this looks like a really interesting spot. For sure, the cash quarterback. For tournaments, I try and get away from the chalkiest quarterback of the slate, but I like Dart. I don't have any issue with this. I think the way I'd play it is for sure easy fade on Wandale, and I would and Theo Johnson's like pretty chalky as well. My favorite stacking partner, like even throwing out ownership, would be Darius Slayton. So certainly like him more with ownership. So that would be the way to play it if you do roll out a Dart lineup.
I ran some sims this morning, and actually I only got to like 1% Jackson Dart, but literally the top lineup I got to was Jackson Dart completely unstacked, which is the first time I've ever seen that in any sims, where like one of the top lineups was a quarterback completely unstacked. But it actually liked unstacked Jackson Dart.
I mean, no Cam Scatterbo maybe could really hurt this offense, honestly. But it could also, more rushing touchdown upside for Dart, more rushing upside.
Yeah, kind of an interesting one.
So like, yeah, theoretically, like you could play him unstacked. Although I Slayton, I think, is one of my conviction plays of the week.
Nice, I like it. Caleb Williams, awesome matchup with Cincinnati. He's 5,700 coming in at 10% ownership. Are you okay with that ownership on Caleb?
Yeah, well, we said this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, where he's historically been one of the more schedule sensitive quarterbacks in fantasy. And obviously this is an elite matchup. Trey Hendrickson's doubtful, so this is really like tough to get any better than this. He's not playing well. Like this is a quarterback I'm a big time hater on. You look at his accuracy, it's bottom 5 in the league. It's really bad. So you run into that issue, and maybe also Cincinnati's ability to push with Joe Flacco dealing with the sprained shoulder. But yeah, I mean, this is just like a nuts matchup. We'd play any quarterback here, and like as much grief as I can give Caleb Williams, he's been fine, better than fine for fantasy.
Yeah, seems. I mean, ownership doesn't bother me here in this matchup with Cincinnati. Then you have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is actually the lowest I've seen his ownership. I think I've seen him as the chalkiest some other places. He's 7,100. What do we think of this game in general? Kansas City, Buffalo. Like, are you going to get to either of the quarterbacks here? We've got Mahomes coming in at 9% ownership here. Josh Allen down at 4%. So that's fairly low for Josh Allen. Do you like either of these quarterbacks in this matchup?
Yeah, maybe you tell me if the ownership is right here. But like clearly when Josh Allen is way below, like that's the move. Yeah. The argument for Patrick Mahomes is like, dude, this is Super Saiyan Mahomes. Like he was not a top 10 fantasy quarterback each of the last 2 years. This year he's running way more. But the passing fantasy points is also way up. This could be a shootout. I think we all remember that playoff game where the two quarterbacks combined for like 92 fantasy points. And so that's always within the range of outcomes. And when you get something like that, you're not going to profit without exposure to that. And yeah, so that's the Mahomes argument, but the Josh Allen argument is way more persuasive to me, even if we throw out the ownership. It's Josh Allen in games Buffalo requires him to be Superman. He is Superman at like, a jaw-dropping level. In games against Kansas City, he averages 30 DraftKings fantasy points per game since 2021. In spots like this with a close spread and over 49, 31 DraftKings fantasy points per game. And I like the matchup more. Buffalo is very much a run funnel intentionally, and that's also kind of what they do against Mahomes. So Kareem Hunt, I think is viable, or at least a little more viable. And yeah, I just, Josh Allen, I think, is the better play straight up, and then drawing much less ownership. So that kind of makes it easy.
We've talked before about how like Mahomes is willing to run when he really needs to. Do you think that goes away with Rashee Rice back? Like, is he just going to be running less like throughout the rest of the year, or in matchups like this where he still might need to run? Do you think we still see some running there?
Well, that was one of my takes in the Everything Report a couple of weeks ago, whereas like paradoxically, Rashee Rice could negatively impact Patrick Mahomes. But I don't know. I kind of think I might have just been overthinking that because his last three games, he had 10 carries, 32 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, 4 for 28, and then 4 for 30. And those were mega blowout wins. So even with Rashee Rice back, even with extreme positive game script, he's still running. So I don't know. I kind of think I was just overthinking that, and this might be a little bit more sticky than I was giving it credit for. And yeah, in a close competitive game, really want to beat Buffalo here. I think we could see him, keep running at this higher rate.
Moving right down the list, I mean, still a lot of quarterbacks up here that look pretty good. Mac Jones now named the starter. He's only 5,000. Nice matchup with the Giants. You can stack him up with Christian McCaffrey. How are we feeling about Mac Jones?
Yeah, it just looks like a really good blow up spot. He nearly leads the league in passing yards per game. The pace of play is really high. It is a pass funnel matchup. Volume should be there. Oh, Giants secondary, dude. Paulson Adebo, Cordarrelle Flott, Art Green. So they're down like their top 3 cornerbacks. The best safety, Javon Holland, is questionable as well. So yeah, it just looks like a great spot. This is like a sneaky, blow up spot. Dart versus Mac Jones.
Nice. Daniel Jones again. Now this is a matchup where it's actually a pretty close spread here for Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. Daniel Jones 6,200, getting 7% ownership. Is this a spot where maybe they finally get it done through the air rather than 3 touchdowns to Jonathan Taylor this week? What do you think of Daniel Jones?
I like this a lot. This is very much like a lean into the upside, boomer bust style play. But I like this a lot. So the Steelers are, you look at the schedule adjusted, they're what? Second worst to quarterbacks, second worst to tight ends, third worst to wide receivers, something like that. And then like good. I mean, can you pull it up, Neil? Good to running backs. It's something like that. They're just like awful against the pass this year. And they are a pass funnel in my eyes. And then the Colts offense, very much like run everything through Jonathan Taylor. But you saw something interesting last week. You saw, that looks incredible. You saw something interesting last week. They had a 14.6% pass rate over expectation. Daniel Jones was throwing touchdown passes into the fourth quarter up 30 plus points. And so that was like the whole thing is, they've been very conservative with a lead. In the first half, Daniel Jones leads all quarterbacks in passing yards per game. In the second half, he's like 28th. But last week, they were more aggressive. And so there's massive upside if they can be as aggressive as the Chiefs or the Lions, as opposed to as conservative as, the Eagles with a lead. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is like Vegas does not think the Colts win this easily. The Vegas thinks this is a close game. And so, yeah, if they keep this close, maybe even force Daniel Jones to pass a bit more in this pass funnel-ish spot. I think there's a ton of upside here. 6,200 for a guy who ranks top 5 in fantasy points per dropback. I don't know, first or second in fantasy points per game in the first half. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think I've seen multiple like tweets. I think Rich Rebar maybe mentioned that like all of Daniel Jones, or like the vast majority of Daniel Jones' production coming in the first half. I think same thing for Tyler Warren. It's been just like all of the production for the passing game.
Even more exaggerated, yeah.
Yeah. So like if we get some of that in the second half, suddenly it's going to be wheels up. So yeah, I like that. I like that call. Beyond Daniel Jones, I mean, Drake May has looked really good this year, but he's 6,500, tough matchup with Atlanta. Are we going to Drake May at all?
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, he's, arguably an MVP front runner. He's had 7+ carries in 3 straight games, 50+ rushing yards in back to back. He's the league's most accurate passer this year. He's exceeded 21 DraftKings fantasy points in 6 of 7 games. Ranks behind only Patrick Mahomes in DraftKings fantasy points per game. It's We haven't really seen a ceiling performance from him, but like you have to think it's coming, given how well he's played. It's a tough matchup. Falcons defense is not giving up a lot of production to quarterbacks, but I don't know. No Ramondre Stevenson, no Antonio Gibson. Do they lean a lot more pass heavy here? Yeah, I like him a little bit more on FanDuel, but yeah, 6% for 6,500. That seems like a steal. You also skipped over Trevor Lawrence. I'm not a Trevor Lawrence guy, but our guy Nick, Football Insights, he does a coverage shell article for us. He really likes that game as a potential slot fest that no one is going to be on, just because you have, I think Brock Bowers coming back sort of unlocks, or at least like makes this Raiders offense functional. And then you have the two biggest pass funnels in football by pass rate over expectation allowed, by passing versus rushing success rate and whatnot. I'm not going to get there, but that was one I thought about. And Nick really has this uncanny ability to like just perfectly nail something that literally no one else was really thinking about, talking about, explaining. But like I said, this ultimately didn't make my, part of it maybe being Travis Hunter being out, didn't make my write-up.
Nobody else except for one person has been talking about this a lot all week, and that is me. But I've been on the Geno Smith side of it because he's only 4,600 and getting even lower ownership than Trevor Lawrence, getting 7%. We've got Geno Smith 4,600, 3%. Has Brock Bowers returning as we pull up schedule adjusted.
I think that's big for them. I think that's really big for them.
He's been hurt. I think people like underrate how hurt Brock Bowers played 3 games, significantly hurt. In his one healthy game, he had 100 yards in 3 quarters. Now I think he's finally healthy. Comes back in this matchup. Again, 4th best matchups over the past 5 weeks, schedule adjusted to quarterbacks. Also 4th best for tight ends over the past 5 weeks.
Yeah. And the stack. There's a lot of value to the stack. It's, Parker Washington is popping as like the number 1 value for us. And like, ETR's not on that. A lot of the other sites are just like have him buried. So that's like and we say he's like the best. So that's a big edge. Then you have Brian Thomas Jr. without Travis Hunter, maybe featured like he was last year. You have Bowers back. You have who's the wide receiver on the Raiders opposite
Jacoby Myers?
Opposite Jacoby Myers.
Trey Tucker.
Yeah, I don't know why that was escaping. Trey Tucker, who's like, sneaky good this year and, had a 40 burger, and Jacksonville is like so vulnerable against the deep threat. So, I think, you factor in the upside of that stack and like no one else talking about it at all except for you and Nick. I think that's interesting.
Agreed. I think, and I'm mostly on the single stack, I think, with Bowers and Geno, but I think Trey Tucker is certainly viable there. Also, like, is Jacoby Myers going to get traded? There's at least a possibility that Jacoby Myers gets traded. Obviously, we'll know before the game starts, so we don't have to factor that in. But yeah, it just looks like too cheap. Like it's 9,600 for the quarterback and top tight end stack. So I like that one. And then, like you said, you can do some ringbacks there. So that's kind of fun. We don't have a ton of other quarterbacks that I'm super interested. I'm like, I kind of want to play my boy JJ McCarthy, but he's 5% projected ownership at 4,900. I kind of wonder if the other side is better. Just play Jared Goff at 6,000 for 4% ownership. Do you have any thoughts on either of those quarterbacks? Do either of them interest you at all?
Yeah, I don't know who tweeted this out, but I thought it was a great tweet. Like, JJ McCarthy is the most hated on, or like the biggest bust of any quarterback to have won player of the week in 50% of his career starts.
Right? Come on.
I thought that was so good. Dude, like people think he's just like ass times a million when like, dude, he had like 22 fantasy points in 1 quarter in week 1. And then he played with a gimpy ankle in the second. And like, what, But like, dude, just play the Kevin O'Connell quarterback. Even the backup quarterback has made a lot of money for us. Nick Mullins had over 400 passing yards in 2 of his last 3 starts. Carson Wentz had like a 25-point game before his shoulder fell off of his body. The other backup quarterback, the astronaut,
Pastronaut,
was
Josh
Dobbs, killed.
Dobbs.
I don't know why I can't remember names today. Killed it for us in DFS. So, the Kevin O'Connell quarterback thing is big. He had a brutal matchup in that week 2 game. This is like a top 12 matchup on paper. Should be pass heavy, but I don't like. I mean, like that's just the argument for it. I really like Jared Goff as a very strong conviction play. Jared Goff onslaughts. We like this every week, or we want to talk about it every week. We want to consider it every week, and then we want to play it when they're massive home favorites, which they are this week. Third highest implied point total of the slate. This has just made us a lot of money, Neil. This has made us look good. It's Jared Goff at home, top 3 implied point total of the slate. Yeah, please consider Jared Goff stacks with just about anyone on the offense. Could stack him with 2, 3 Lions players.
Yeah, love it. I mean, we'll get to some of the play to stack them with, but I think that is a strong play. Just need to address Cubs 37 who says they played a 1-arm man and Wentz over JJ. Everybody just seems to assume that it was a fake injury. Like he wasn't actually injured. All indications are like the quarterback himself talking about how bad the injury was. He doesn't feel ready. And people are still like, no, it's a fake injury. They just want to play Carson Wentz. Just like, give me a break. And obviously he's a Bears fan, so he hates the Vikings, hates their current franchise quarterback. But all indications are he's just hurt. People are like, what are the excuses going to be now? It's like he's hurt. There's one excuse. There's always been one excuse for JJ McCarthy. Sorry, just got a vent about people for some reason deciding that this is a fake injury. Anything else here, Scott? Any other quarterbacks that I actually one that I was getting to a lot in the Sims that I honestly have not really loved, but the Sims, Jordan Love, 5% projected ownership, 6,100, kind of a nice price tag there. I guess he has Christian Watson back. Do you have any interest in Jordan Love?
Yeah, that Christian Watson's been a weird like gut call for me. I've been telling Ryan for like 6 months, like Christian Watson is going to have the year of his life this year. And like the only, it's just one, like what my gut is telling me. And it's 2, I think it's because like it doesn't make any sense, which is why it makes so much sense. But I wrote up Jordan Love in the Everything Report where I talked about how, he just had one of his best games in nearly a year. It was also like the first time the Packers had a positive P-row in a year. And like, if that sticks, if they decided to take the training wheels off, he should be an easy top 7 fantasy quarterback. Cause in games he's thrown the ball at least 30 times. He averages more fantasy points per game than Patrick Mahomes, than Jalen Hurts, than Baker Mayfield. It's really just this stubbornness to go run heavy. And so, hey, it's a pass funnel-ish matchup against the Panthers. It's you have Josh Jacobs still limited with a calf injury. And so if they kind of remain, I don't know, not bottom 6 levels of run heavy, there's upside there. But ultimately didn't make my pool. I just kind of think like it was the ultimate pass funnel matchup last week, and they're probably just going to go back to being who they are, but you never know.
Okay. Yeah. But it sounds like you are playing Christian Watson like as a one-off, you saying?
No,
Okay.
no, not playing him. Just he's like, maybe it's just indigestion, but I've had this weird, my gut is just nonstop telling me he's going to have a year.
Yeah. I mean, I could not believe 59.5% rep participation in week 8. I didn't draft him at all in best ball because everybody was saying he was going to be out for the year. I thought there was no way we're going to get Christian Watson before at least like December. Insane that he came back and immediately looked good and ran a ton of routes.
Yeah.
Any other quarterbacks looking good to you?
Yeah, I wrote up Matthew Stafford. I wrote up Justin Herbert. You can check that out in the article. They were kind of lower on the list, but
good reminder that you can use promo code OTB15 or the box below Scott. If you want to scan that, you'll be able to get 15% off any product at Fantasy Points. Already reduced prices for the season, right, Scott? So
we're
cheap
down past 50% now.
Down past 50%. Use the additional.
We are 50% off and then an extra 15% off.
Yeah, so inexpensive to get access to everything at Fantasy Points. Get access to the Discord, all of that. Use that promo code OTB15 for 15% off. Also, I didn't already say it, but if you haven't already done so, please do like this video. Helps out quite a bit in spreading the video. And of course, subscribe to the Fantasy Points YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Fantastic content, I think, every day on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel. So highly recommend subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Let's move on to running backs, Scott. And running back, we've got some pretty good chalk again. I think. What do you think of Kyle Monangai? 4,600. We have no DeAndre Swift in like the nut matchup against the Bengals. He's projected for 42% ownership, though. What are you doing with Kyle Monangai?
Yeah, I'm fading him where I want to get the combinatorial ownership down, playing him when that's less of a concern. I mean, he's clearly the best value on the slate. The Bears have no choice but to give him the ball a lot. It's a literal best possible matchup. Everyone just absolutely destroying the Bengals. The one thing I'll say, I don't think he's very good. I don't even know that he's that much better than Travis Homer, but I don't know. I do think he's going to get the ball a lot. So, but 42%, I mean, like you fade him, he sucks. You gain a leg up on nearly half the field, and you have some similarly priced players. You have Travion Henderson, the dynasty darling. You have what's Kareem Hunt's price tag? Can you scroll down? Is he not double digit ownership?
Project for 7% ownership.
Damn, that's an awesome leverage play right there. That's a sick one. The Bills beg you to run on it. They just please just run all over us. We'll give you 6 yards every single time you want to run the ball. So no Isaiah Pacheco, decent touchdown upside, and same price, way lower ownership. Would not shock me. I mean, Monangai clearly the better play, but would not shock me if Kareem Hunt outscores him. The odds of that are better than 42% versus 6%.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how good of a play it is projection wise. He's 17.9 fantasy points at 4,600. That's going to be your best point per dollar play on the slate by kind of a wide margin. But then the ownership it can fail for sure on Kyle Monangai. As you said, didn't have a ton of pedigree coming out as an awesome prospect. And I think he projects some places better than DeAndre Swift did, which caught some people off guard, I think, but also we're assuming that he's going to get 75% of the work as opposed to DeAndre Swift, who was kind of 60-40, I think, before he got hurt. So we're assuming a lot of the workload there, but there are ways that they could, involve some of the other running backs that they have there, maybe more than expected. But yeah, he's an objectively good play. I'm going to have, probably a quarter of my lineups or so will have Kyle Monangai, I would assume. So a light fade there, but tough to argue that he's a strong play. Then you've got, as far as the expensive guys, and I'm going to, Christian McCaffrey is fairly chalky, and then Jonathan Taylor is not chalky at all. I want your takes on those two in particular. With McCaffrey, 8,800 projected for 32% ownership. Jonathan Taylor, 9,800 projected for 8% ownership. Do you think Christian McCaffrey is such a better play than Jonathan Taylor that you're willing to eat the ownership, or would you rather, kind of fade it in large field tournaments? What are you thinking about the expensive guys here?
I mean, it's really just they're awesome, but it's so hard to fit a 9,800 player in your lineup and feel good about that lineup. So that's really all it comes down to, and why, the ownership plays out the way that it does. I love Christian McCaffrey. It's the same thing I say every week. It's, the best workload in fantasy points data history. He ranks second among all players in carries. And then if you just throw out all of those carries, he's a top 12 wide receiver in receiving fantasy points per game. It's a really good matchup. But I mean, he's 32% and Bijan Robinson's 8%, when last week it was the reverse of that. And so why not they're basically the same price. Why not up your exposure to Bijan post flop, which is, a great time to play these guys. Yeah. So that's what I would say. I would say I don't have any analysis for you on Jonathan Taylor other than he's awesome, but like it's so hard to get to that. I think the stat I had was, he has more games with 3+ rushing touchdowns than Daniel Jones has games with 3+ passing touchdowns in his entire career. And then he had another 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown last week. And yeah, so it's just, Jonathan Taylor, it's a question of price. And then Christian McCaffrey is awesome, but I don't know that he's this much better than Bijan.
Interesting. So even with the matchup against the Giants, Bijan is what's projected for 8% ownership, so 4x the ownership. Yeah, I mean that's a fair call. I feel like we all sort of, myself included, have a sour taste in our mouth after playing all the Bijan against the Dolphins, and it's like he sucked against the Dolphins. It just feels he's bad.
What do all these like DFS pros who are just like robots who just like totally take out the emotion and like study their cognitive biases do? It's like, we have this instinctual, this is gross, he killed me last week. They have this instinctual like, oh, this is an awesome time to play Bijan because he burned everyone last week.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the downside is that worked really well a few years ago. Now with everybody using Sims, like people are gonna get to Sims anyway. It's not just the pros who are using it. So he's not going to come in at as much of a reduced ownership. But yeah, looks pretty good against the Patriots there. What about I guess let's stick to the top still. So we've gone through Monungai, McCaffrey, and then Trevion Henderson with no Ramondre Stevenson, 4,900 projecting for 24% ownership. Do you think they're actually going to let him touch the ball this week? Is it finally Trevion time?
I feel like they have to. It would really blow my mind if they didn't, without Stevenson, without Gibson. And this is like a valuable backfield if he gets even 75% of the work in a good matchup. Atlanta.
Is this a good matchup? Do you consider this? I was going to say like this scares me, but I guess you're right. This is third best in terms of schedule adjusted.
So look, it's a run funnel spot, or at least like they're shutting down quarterbacks, they're shutting down tight ends and wide receivers, but it's all going to the running back. So, I mean, like, are they really going to give the ball to Terrell Jennings and Dearness Johnson? They could, because, there were games where Ramondre fumbled the ball multiple times and Gibson then fumbled the ball and they still wouldn't give it to him. So you never know. Yeah. I will say, like, luckily he is coming off of his best game. He looked good and they were finally giving him those outside runs, which fit his skill set and he excelled at in college. So yeah, I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I think he looks good. Like, to me, Monungai is in such a better spot. But like coming into the year, like Trevion was the guy who was like, he might be the best running back.
Trevion is so much more talented than Monungai.
Yeah, and this is I was thinking it was a tough matchup with Atlanta. I was kind of surprised to see that it is as much of a run funnel as it is. Yeah, does make me like him a bit. Obviously has the ability to just like with one play break it. So yeah, seems good. What do we think of Tyrone Tracy? He's 5,100, no Cam Scattaboo. Getting 20% ownership in like it's a pretty good matchup here with San Francisco with all the injuries to their defense. I don't know. I don't feel great about 20% ownership, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as a Giants fan.
Yeah, me neither. I think the workload's going to be really good. I just kind of don't trust his upside in this spot.
Yeah.
So I get him as a value, but I think 20% for GPPs is a bit much.
Yeah. Okay. Same page there. Then you got Jalen Warren, Kamani Vidal. We've got kind of a strong mid-range this week, stronger than usual. Jalen Warren, 5,500, strong point per dollar projection against the Colts. And then Kamani Vidal has had an awesome workload recently for the Chargers, 6,300 against Tennessee. Thoughts on Warren and Vidal?
Yeah, Warren's workload has been a lot better than I was expecting. It's been good, but it's also, Arthur Smith, and I don't really trust Arthur Smith. He's also played well, but Kamani Vidal to me is an amazing play. Really hard to get much better than a matchup against the Titans without Jeffrey Simmons. And you're getting both of the offensive linemen back. He's played really well. The volume's been excellent. Really positive coach speak. So yeah, I really like Kamani Vidal in this spot a lot more than Warren for GPPs.
You can see I pulled up here. This is the workload for Kamani Vidal just over the past 3 weeks has 50 carries, 10 targets on 42.5% route participation. So really strong workload pretty consistently. And then also Jalen Waddle or Warren. I mean, let me pull that up real quick. Just since their bye week, Jalen Warren in 3 games, 40 carries, 10 targets, 41.2% route participation. Both look like fairly strong plays to me.
But again, I like Vidal significantly more for tournaments.
Yep. And I think on the same page there. Warren is cheaper, so like I can see the merit there, but yeah, Vidal stands out a bit. Kyren to me seems just too expensive, too high owned. Do you disagree with that?
No, I think I do. Jake and I kind of went back and forth on this, where it's like we always had this instinct to just play Kyren and smash spots, but this year it seems a little bit different. They're giving Blake Corum a lot of that garbage time role, which like kind of really kneecaps his upside. So I'm with you. I kind of think he's a bit overpriced, overplayed.
Yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs has historically been great against my Vikings. He is 8,000 projected for just 10% ownership. That seems good to me. Do you have any interest in Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, for sure. It's I wrote him and David Montgomery up, and they're kind of like James Cook to me, where it's just like I envy the MME bros, where like they're just guys you gotta bump that ownership up, but they're hard for me to get to in my single entry 3 max.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a little bit much in single entry, but like for a large field, I think Gibbs makes a ton of sense against the Vikings. Montgomery, only 5,000, so the price is nice there as well. You already mentioned Kareem Hunt as a strong pivot against Kyle Monunga, so it sounds like you're pretty interested in Hunt.
Yeah, dude, he balled out last year. Really just dominated in XTD, XFP. I don't think he's good, but it is a really good matchup, really good price tag. No Isaiah Pacheco, so yeah, I like him a lot.
Broadner Mike says this Kyren fan fiction seriously needs to stop. Do you mean Sean McVay's fan fiction about Kyren? Because I'm pretty sure Sean McVay actually writes fan fiction about Kyren. Chase Brown, nice matchup. I guess I'm going through a lot of running backs here, but it's such a nice matchup with Chase Brown. He's 5,900. Like I have some appeal there. I don't know, but he is splitting carries kind of with some IDP around. Do you have any takes there?
Yeah, Jake wouldn't let me write him up just because Samaji is working in so much more. But I feel like you're staring at Monongai's ownership. Like obviously the opposite running back as leverage has to make a ton of sense. And like look at what he's done the last 2 weeks. He's had 95 plus yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games. Sure the touches weren't a lot of them, but it's like I don't know, 8.4 yards per carry. And like Samaje, is eating in, but that's largely a game script thing. So if you get positive game script, you get more Chase Brown and you get a lot less Monongai. So I think that work ultimately didn't make the pool, but I think he works as a sharp leverage play.
Okay, nice. So we talked about Brock Bowers potentially elevating the entire offense for Vegas. And like, I still have not found myself super interested in Ashton Genty, but is that a mistake? Should I be thinking about him at 6,700, 7% ownership?
I'm not going to get there.
Okay.
I think just this offensive line is too bad. And, worry about game script and what there's going to be, to me, I'm kind of just pretending he doesn't exist for the rest of the year. And there's, 1 or 2 weeks, he'll score 24 fantasy points, but I think I'd be better off just kind of removing him from my pool.
Yeah. And we have so many strong running backs at the top that there aren't that many more that I think we necessarily need to talk about here. But there are a couple. I mean, James Cook, like 7,200, 6% projected ownership. You mentioned him as somebody that you get to in a 150 set. Are you going to get there enough on like 3 lineups? So like how much interest do you have in James Cook?
Probably not. I don't think he had a single reception all of October. The spots we like to play him are spots where he, the Bills are going to win by multiple scores. This looks like a close shootout where Josh Allen needs to be Superman. So I don't think this is the spot to play him, but like, dude, he seems like he has at least one 60-yard rushing touchdown every week. So like that could for sure make me look dumb.
He is 7,200 though. So even that like
right
doesn't necessarily pay it off. You kind of need a lot from him. Josh Jacobs, what do we think of this Carolina rush defense? Because I've thought they have a really tough run defense, and then they kind of got crushed last week by that was last week, right? James Cook. What do you think of Josh Jacobs at 7,700 against Carolina here?
Yeah, I worry about this calf injury. I know he's off the injury report, but he was limited in practice all week, and that was the same thing last week, and touches down. So I think there's just better running back plays.
I think there's only 2 more that I want your opinions on, and then if you have any more, of course, we can talk about those also. But Rico Dowdle, like now, finally, it sounds like they're actually going to give Rico Dowdle the workload. He's 5,800, 2% projected ownership. I think it's a tough matchup with the Packers, but they haven't looked as tough as they did early on in the season, or am I wrong about that? Actually, still over the past 5 weeks, 3rd worst matchup for running backs. But is Rico Dowdle still a strong play at 2% ownership here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most run heavy offense in football. Is the most RB centric offense in football. We've seen what Dowdle can do with a bell cow workload, which was 200 plus yards from scrimmage in back to back games. But ultimately, I mean, 2% is nice. Geez. Yeah. But ultimately, I just think, at the price versus some of the other value or top name guys, he didn't make my pool, but 2% is not bad.
Okay. And then we're
and he's a guy. Yeah. Like that's probably true ownership, because he's a guy, the ownership projections and the sims are going to miss on, the projections are going to miss on, because it's still just like, 70-30. They're debating between that and 60-40. But I think the guy's good. I think he can rip off some long runs. Like he showed that clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, playable in a large field, probably more of a
he's probably the best sub 5% guy there is.
Yeah, that's probably true. One more name I want to throw at you. Steven brought up Rashard Smith as I might play some Rashard Smith for leverage. Do you have any interest in Rashard Smith? You're just going to play Kareem Hunt instead?
Yeah, I would lean towards Kareem Hunt. I don't think they really trust him on the ground, and Chris. That was a big Chris conviction, and I think he's right on that.
Okay, I think that's probably true. I don't hate the call for large field stuff like Steven brought up. I think those are all. Rance brought up ETN. I think I skipped over ETN. I don't know if you have interest there.
I thought about him just because it's like a really good spot, and we haven't seen Jacksonville in a game where they could, really lead comfortably throughout. Not since week 1 where Etienne smashed. I think we see more Bajal Tutin coming out of the bye. So I wouldn't play that, but I did think deeply about it.
Okay. He is in fact a Neil ass play, as Mike says. Rashard Smith. Any other?
No, he's honestly, like, you're talking about the contrarian plays under 7%. He's a good one. He is because 3 carries, 0 targets last week, but the week before that, 14 carries, 5 targets. So it's one of those range of outcomes things. Maybe. I mean, Kareem Hunt kind of just gets 3.3 yards every single run, no matter what. Right. So it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if we see Rashard more heavily involved and he does well with it. It's at 1%. That's a good play.
Probably makes the Mahomes stack better too if you include Rashard in the stack. Just bring down the combinatorial total ownership because he's used so much in the passing game. Any other running backs you want to talk about, Scott?
Well, he's not used so much in the passing. I think he's only one game with more than 3 catches, 32 yards this year. But
true.
The dream of Damian, who was the running back from 4 years ago?
Jerick McKinnon.
Jerick McKinnon. There you go. That's the dream. There was that weird, like 8 game stretch in the second half of 1 year where he averaged like 28 fantasy points per game.
Yeah, I mean I thought that there was some promise. 2 games ago, Rashard Smith targeted 4 times in the first half. So that was like, all right, maybe they're like really going to start using him. And then of course that they didn't use him like at all in the passing game, or very little last week. So I don't know it's the Chiefs. I just never know what to make of the Chiefs. They're all over the place in their usage, but the dream is still sort of alive, I think. Any other running backs you want to talk about?
I don't think I had anyone else.
All right, well then, why don't you take a little break, and I'll bring up some receiver stuff. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, I'm going to bring up another page here. We're bringing up the wide receiver cornerback matchup report. We're going to be moving on to wide receivers when Scott gets back. Just wanted to check for any shadow coverage situations. One thing that we'll notice is Patrick Surtain is out this week, so that is going to be a benefit for Nico Collins. Normally we would probably see, I think, a shadow situation here on Nico Collins. Nico Collins does not have to deal with Patrick Surtain this week. Justin Jefferson apparently going to be shadowed by Amik Robertson. Not a scary shadow to me. I guess maybe I don't know much about Amik Robertson. Maybe Scott will correct me on that being more impactful than I think it is, but we don't have to worry about Patrick Surtain on this slate. We don't have the Jets, so there's no Sauce Gardner on this slate. So not a ton of shadow or no real shadow situations that I'm worried about. By the way, I believe this page is free. If you go to Fantasy Points, go to research. It's on the left here, wide receiver cornerback matchups. If you wanted to check that out for yourself. I think I just heard Scott back. I'm not looking at my screen. There he is.
All right. Great urination.
That was quick. That was a good job. Glad that you got that out real quickly. Just powerful. I'm sure that was like a hose there.
Powerful flow with that. We need Neil Asplay shirts so badly.
We do need some Neil Asplay shirts, hats, whatever. Agreed. Wide receiver ownership, really, like, there's a big gap down. Jamar Chase 8,400 against the Bears. Let's start there. 33% projected ownership. How much interest do we have in Jamar Chase?
I don't know. This is kind of tough. Why don't you tell me? So, like, I was talking about Christian McCaffrey having the best workload in fantasy points data history, where it's not just like the best ever, but it's like the best by 33%, which is so mind-boggling as someone who, basically invented this stat, has been working with it since 2016, 2017. And like, this is the best by a lot. Well, Jamar Chase with Joe Flacco is crushing that. It's like 31.3 XFP per game. He has nearly twice as many catchable targets as the next closest player over the last 3 weeks. 17.7 targets per game. Even with Jake Browning, it was like 9.5 targets per game, which is so crazy. So it's a great game environment, insane volume. The one hole you could poke into this beyond ownership is, dude, Joe Flacco, I don't think is like healthy at all. Like, he has, he's dealing with an AC joint injury to his throwing shoulder. That can make you look awful. Like Carson Wentz the last X amount of weeks, awful. And so when you have a gimpy quarterback and you have this sort of ownership, I think that's a very valid cause to try and get away from him. I also kind of think you have a banged up Joe Flacco. Like, maybe he just locks on to Chase even more. You get more
True.
of these screens and easy slants across the middle of the field. It's a tough one. It's just really tough. I'm okay coming under when seeing the 33%, but I mean, just crazy bury you upside. If it wasn't for the Flacco, if Flacco was fully healthy, I would just lock him in.
Okay.
And so it really comes down to that, and I'm not an injury expert.
And you historically, you don't like playing players that are banged up like that. That's sort of a difference between us. Is sometimes I'll take the risk of like, well, what if he is fully healthy? It looks really good. But you like historically do not like playing players in the situation. And I guess it's not the case for Jamar Chase specifically. It's Joe Flacco that we're worried about. So maybe it doesn't qualify exactly as that, but you typically just kind of like avoid the injury situations, and maybe this is one where that affects it a bit.
I'll get Edwin to drop his thoughts into Discord tonight.
Okay, on the
I'll
injury.
ask around a bit more too, because that really is the crucial point here.
Yeah.
Because again, like what did I just say? Like lock button, fully healthy Flacco, 31.3 XFP per game. That should be a 10.4K salary.
I will say when I first saw it, I think of Chicago as being a great matchup, but that has not really been the case so much recently. You see it's a bottom 8 matchup for wide receivers overall over the past 5
look
weeks.
at that slot. Yeah, maybe
the
it's
slot is the one
maybe it's a Yoshi game.
Yeah, that's why I was pulling up how much does Jamar Chase actually run in the slot, and I just pulled up over the past 3 weeks. What does the slot usage look like? It's just 29% for Jamar Chase, 69% for Yoshi. So yeah, I don't know that I'm going to be playing Yoshi, but yeah, it does look good for slot receivers specifically, and then pretty bad for all other receivers. Which again, that was not the case early in the year. They've really come around as a defense a bit. I will say, in running the Sims earlier, using I think pretty similar ownership to what we have here, I was getting to like 5% Chase or something like that. Like I was not getting much at all. I think the Sims were not loving Chase at this kind of ownership. But it would scare me to have like a major fade position, because like you said, he's just 18 targets per game over the past 3 weeks.
It's really something I need to give more thought to tonight and hash out with Johnny tomorrow morning, hear what Edwin has to say, what Jeff Mueller has to say. But like, it's not just 8,400 Jamar Chase, 33% ownership in a vacuum. Keep in mind, because right below that is Puka Nacua. Right below that is Rashee Rice. Right below that is Amon-Ra in the perfect schematic. So, hey, you know what we should do? We should build a lineup that's like Gino or your favorite cheap quarterback plus Monangai plus Kareem plus I don't know Tracy or another cheap running back, and see if we can't fit Chase, Nacua, and Rashee.
I bet we can. If we do that, I bet we can do it. Yeah, we should try to do that. We'll do that at the end of the show. So yeah, agreed. Like that is like the contextualized, because we have such other strong pay up receivers that's why. Maybe if Chase is going to like separate in terms of ownership, maybe just want to kind of spread that ownership out to the others, get more of those. Do you have a strong take on those four, like Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase? Like, how did you have a ranking in mind for those four? What do you think?
I think Rashee Rice is the best for cash. I think he's an absolute must for cash. Buffalo, I mean, you just look at it over his last 11, 12 games. I think he's hit like 17.5 fantasy points in 90% of those, and like out producing, Amon-Ra St. Brown even. And Buffalo's slot cornerback was a late add to the injury report on Friday. He's questionable. And then it's just like a potential shootout with massive upside. And so you have to weigh that against Puka Nacua's ceiling, who we were just talking about Jamar Chase insane usage, and like literally nothing comes close to that. But the closest thing to that was Puka Nacua this year before his injury. And so like, I don't know how much help I'm going to be beyond anyone else. It's just like, they're all
great plays,
freaking sick plays.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Probably, I mean, you play them in the lineups where it makes sense, which is kind of a cop-out answer. But like, yeah, if you're playing JJ McCarthy stack or a Jared Goff stack, obviously go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you're going to Josh Allen, you play Rashee Rice, et cetera, et cetera. But generally, I think I'm going to be fairly spread out on those four. I don't think I'm going to take a huge stand on any of them, because I think they're all great plays, but none really stands out to me as the clear best. You already mentioned that you're out on Wandale, and you are, of course, the Wandale Whisperer, being out on him in every game of his career, except for the one game that he went completely off. You're going to put your record on the line here? You say that you are out on Wandale 5,100?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I'm not playing Wandale into chalk. No way. Well, pull up schedule adjusted. I think
Okay.
he does have a good matchup this week, but I'm pulling up something else actually. Hold on.
Okay, I've got schedule adjusted pulled up here. It is a fairly strong matchup for the Giants and a particularly strong matchup for slot receivers. Second best matchup for slot receivers.
Yeah, clear as day slot funnel.
Yeah.
But and so that's I hate when the field kind of gets there, even though like
For the wrong
I don't think
reasons.
anyone was looking at this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Slayton a lot more at much lower ownership, maybe a third as much ownership. And so last year, Slayton had 11 targets in his 2 games without Malik Neighbors, averaged 20.5 DraftKings fantasy points per game. And then last week, he did nothing. He scored like 4 fantasy points. So everyone's like, oh, screw this guy. But he had a huge play negated due to penalty. It was kind of a BS call. But it was, if you counted that, he would have had 94 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. So like, that's basically like, I don't know, 20 something DraftKings fantasy points per game and like 9 targets in his 3 games without Neighbors. And so it's just an argument that no one else is making. And yes, the 49ers are a slot funnel, but they're also extremely vulnerable deep, which is Slayton's bread and butter. And like with the pass rush being so bad, especially lately, Jackson Dart should have plenty of time in the pocket to kind of chase those deep shots to hopefully Slayton. But really, ultimately, it's just like for a guy I've always hated, except for that 1 week he worked out for us. I'm not going to play him into ownership. I'd be looking to chase someone else.
I'm going to bring up a comment because I actually don't know if this is possible, but I would be potentially willing to if it is possible. KJJ says, "Can you put it in night mode? It's really bright with the white background."
Yeah,
I don't believe that you can.
No, you can, right?
I don't know
scroll
how.
all the way up, or maybe
All
you
right,
have to go into settings.
Wait,
hold on, or maybe that's only the data suite.
The data suite I have in night mode.
Who runs this website?
But this page, I don't know how to do it. If it is possible,
I just went to support. Let's see if there's a. Oh, I guess not.
But I would be willing to do it if it is possible. I've actually looked for it before. I haven't looked that hard, and I don't know that it's possible to put this page in night mode. So apologies, KJJ, but you're going to have to continue burning your eyes on the white. All right. We'll see if I can find a way. I'll change it potentially in future weeks. But so you like Darius Slayton, fade on Wandale. Yeah, story as old as time there. But it is a nice matchup for Wandale as the slot receiver. Again, looking at schedule adjusted, second best over the past 5 weeks for slot receivers. Just want to note that. Then you've got DK Metcalf. Again, we've got that Pittsburgh, Indianapolis game. DK Metcalf, 5,500 projected for 14% ownership. It's interesting with DK Metcalf. Whenever I look at his usage, and I'll just look at the past 3 games, but it's like he stands out on the Steelers as like the clear, like gets the most targets and stuff. 22 over the past 3 games. That's so just over 7 per game. But that's even more than he's had historically. It's like he gets targeted the most on the team, but it's still just like 6, 7 per game. Like he doesn't have that great of a role. I don't know. What are your thoughts on DK Metcalf here?
I think he's a really good play, but I wasn't listening to what you were saying because I was DMing with Jeff Mueller, who's a really good injury expert, about the Joe Flacco thing. He thinks you really see the AC, you really see Flacco's ADOT plummet due to this injury. And I was looking it up. Like Jamar Chase's ADOT has been shockingly low with Flacco. If you just go to the data suite and you've like filtered for just under 7 ADOT throws, like he has twice as many targets as anyone else. If you just look at his if you just look at his ADOT, it's like Keenan Allen, Trey McBride levels, or even below that. So yeah, there's a chance this is like honestly even better for Chase, or at least it just like doesn't negatively impact him. But you were asking about, if you just look at that last 3 weeks too. I think it's even less than that.
I already have that pulled up. Last 3 weeks, 8 out of 6.3. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy low. He said, it sounds like Flacco's feeling a lot better and he's going to get an injection. I would be way more worried about Higgins than Chase. He thinks Brock Bowers is going to be brace free, and he's not concerned at all about Puka coming off of injury either. So shout out Jeff Mueller. You can follow him on Twitter at JMThrivePT. And you asked me
about TK Metcalf.
Oh, I like Metcalf a lot. Metcalf is like a player I've been hating on just because he's like a massive regression candidate. But that's priced in. He's the wide receiver 12 by DraftKings fantasy points per game. He's wide receiver 20 by salary. And he draws like an easy top 3 matchup against the Colts in one of the best game environments of the slate. Should be very pass heavy here. You know, I can never really presume to know what's going on in Arthur Smith's head, but it would really make sense for this to be a DK Metcalf blow up game.
All right, so DK at 14% ownership, you can play. What about Juwan Jennings? Like, is he getting healthier? He's been targeted quite a bit the past couple of weeks. He's only 4,300. Nice matchup with the Giants. Any interest in Juwan Jennings?
Yeah, so this is an elite matchup on paper in terms of the backup cornerbacks he's going up against, in terms of the ideal schematic matchup for him, the amount of plays the 49ers are running, and you know, the game environment. And the only real question is, how hurt is he? Because just 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was like a miracle he was even on the field. It was reported by Adam Schefter that he was dealing with a high ankle sprain, a low ankle sprain, shoulders at 20%, and 5 broken ribs. If that's real, like we have no business playing him, but neither does the 49ers. And you look at over his last however many games, it's 8.5 fantasy points, 7.1, 1.7, 4.4. I don't play hurt guys, so I'm not going to have too much, but these guys also make shit up. And like I don't think this is real that he has all that. Like you could die if you're playing with broken ribs. Like you could puncture a lung or something. But I also kind of like I think, you know, playing like clearly hurt guys, it limits upside, but also lowers the floor. So I don't like him as much as this, but I think that's more like a personal preference thing than it is a recommendation.
What about like Kendrick Bourne had his, was it just one blow up game for Kendrick Bourne? Like, and everybody's talking about the
dude. I think that's
Kendrick
real.
Bourne.
I'm a big believer in the backup connection. These guys just like have rapport from, you know, spending a lot of time together. Bourne had that 10 catch, 142 yard game, and then the exact next week later, another 142 yard game.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's different when you have Kittle back on the field, but yeah, 5K is not really cheap. That's more than Jennings. So
true. Do you like any of these Chargers receivers? Lad McConkey is 6,000 projected for 14% ownership. Then you have Keenan Allen, 5,600 projected for 5% ownership. And then QJ looks like he's going pretty overlooked here, just 2% ownership at 5,400. Do you like any of the Chargers receivers? Or you just lean into the run game with Vidal?
Yeah, those sharp DFS pros I was talking about, just like, you know, fade emotion, are probably going to play QJ just because, you know, people were excited to play him 3 weeks ago, and then, you know, now everyone's treating him off as dead. You know, I'm not going to presume to like say I know, you know, who the right Chargers receiver is, but like just about every indication is it's back to being Lad. Last 3 weeks, only Jamar Chase has more targets. He's been really productive. QJ's role awful once again. It was really good to start, a lot of horizontal routes, but now it's mostly these vertical shot plays. He's back to being that role from last year, whereas like Gadsden, maybe, you know, the Gadsden breakout is opening things up for Lad. it's pushing QJ to more of an ancillary role, and you have Keenan's route share dropping. So I think if you're going to play a receiver, I think it's Ladd, and maybe Gadsden's like an even better play. And I wouldn't play Keenan due to the reduction in routes. I'm not going to play QJ due to this, what looks like a new role change for the worse. But you could also just fade the whole thing and say this is kind of tough to get right, and they should steamroll the Titans.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to get to some QJ. Like I've been drafting him in draft games just from a perspective of like everybody's assuming based on the last few weeks that everything has changed. And I kind of like sometimes like to fade that. It's like, well, that's the most recent sample we have, but like looking at the larger sample, are we sure that this is like a permanent thing? And so far, it does look that way in the most recent showdown slate. I didn't play as much Gadsden because I was like, well, he's getting ownership and everybody's making the assumption, and then he crushed again. So it does like more, we're getting a larger and larger sample that like, yeah, Gadsden's eating that role. But like regardless of it, of role, I think QJ at least has the ability to break one open for a big play. So I don't know, at very low ownership, sort of interesting to me, but there are other, not a huge priority, obviously. Parker Washington, we brought up already as a part of that game stack, and then of course BTJ is 6,200. We have no Travis Hunter here. 14% ownership for BTJ, 10% for Parker Washington. You get into the Jaguars guys here.
Yeah, can you? Where is BTJ? I'm not seeing him on here. Oh, he's right above. Oh, yeah. Can you sort by fantasy points per dollar?
Yes.
Yeah. Boom.
There we go.
Look at that. And I think we're too low on BTJ, honestly. But yeah, I think Parker Washington's an awesome play. I liked Jake Tribby's write-up on him. It's just on a per route basis, he's being targeted more often than Tet McMillan, Tyler Warren, Devonta Smith. And then he's had 3 games with a route share of 65% or more. He's averaging 7.3 targets, I think like 1.5 carries. And he looks good. He's been productive. The rapport with him and Lawrence has looked better than it was with BTJ at times. And so yeah, no Travis Hunter, no Brenton Strange. I think he's one of the best sub 4K wide receivers we've had all year.
Yeah, I mean obviously, and the role. If we just look at the route share report for Jaguars, like for a while it looked like it was like De'Ami Brown had the lead role there. Parker Washington, 77% route participation last week. Yeah,
that's sick. In a game, BTJ and Travis Hunter both played.
Yeah. So like, yeah, pretty great role there. I'm with you. Looks like a very strong play. BTJ. So you think that we're too low on BTJ? Does he not fit like your usual? Like, is he not playing hurt? I kind of think that he's playing hurt. So does that concern you at all? That he seems to be kind of shying away from contact. I think that's like the one knock on BTJ, or I shouldn't say the one knock because he's been pretty bad most of the year, but like the biggest knock is he does appear to be like kind of hurt avoiding contact. Do you think it's been long enough since the injury that maybe we can play him as though he's healthy now?
Yeah, I think that's certainly like something's clearly off. Like look at how good he was last year and look at how bad he's been this year. It could be psychological even, but yeah, that's something to factor in. And I think factoring it in, it's priced in. Right. And so when you remove that, it's okay. Well, Travis Hunter was getting a lot of these manufactured touches, these screens designed to maximize yak. BTJ, like an elite 99th percentile athlete. Maybe those start to go to him. Maybe the first read target share jumps. Maybe it's a top 7 matchup on paper, a major pass funnel spot. And like they kind of just don't have any other choice but to try and make it work. And then the other angle is that supposedly he's coming off of his best practice all year, according to Liam Cohen. I mean, like, I know that's thin, but it's like, hey, that might be something we need to grasp onto here because there's not much else.
Is that just Coach Beak making up for everybody being like, yeah, we're just going to feature Travis Hunter going forward, and then he gets hurt, and they're like, no, BTJ, best practice of the year. Yeah, hard to know, but yeah. But yeah, I think
that's such a bummer for Ryan and Jake because we fought on Travis Hunter all off season, and it just they were just like, yeah, it's Travis Hunter time, baby.
Yeah,
but he goes down. You kind of just don't have a choice, but yeah.
Yeah.
BTJ.
And you didn't love him for best ball, but you did make MVP bets on Travis Hunter. So
Yeah, don't think those are going to cash, but
I don't think those are going to cash either. What else? Who else do we like here? Let's see. I'm going to sort by ownership again. See who else we want to talk about here. Anybody? I mean, we talked about Drake May a bit. You're going to be stacking him up with Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte. Anybody on the Patriots?
I think again, you MME guys have it so easy, and I would be a billionaire if I had time or knew how to MME. But
I'll show you how.
We should do that one day. We've talked about it.
We've talked about it for years now. Yeah, we should do it.
Maybe a playoff slate. We'll do that. But yeah, I mean, there's clear upside there. I still kind of think Stephon Diggs is the guy. Like, he ranks top 6 in yards per route run. I don't really know what's going on. He's just volatile, I guess. Like the route share isn't full time, but he's ranked top 10 in target share in like 3 of his last 6. And then if you don't want to go that route, you go with Kayshon Boutte, who's averaging like, it's all touchdowns, and it doesn't feel sustainable, but he's averaging like, I don't know, 24 fantasy points per game over his last 3 games. There's just, when you have Drake May leading the league in accuracy and MVP caliber, and no one wants to play the wide receivers, there's just clear, there's alpha to that. But as a single entry guy, like, no, they don't stand out.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, you play him in a lot of lineups, probably get above the field, but not like such a big priority to get him in one. Makes sense. What about these Bears receivers? Any interest in? We talked about Caleb, so I assume some interest in either Rome Odunze or Olamide Zaccheaus or DJ Moore. They're all kind of getting similar ownership. We got Zaccheaus at 10% at 3,300, Odunze 8% at 6,600. And then DJ Moore is 5,200, getting 6% ownership. You have a preference of the Bears receivers?
Yeah, certainly Rome Odunze. Kind of surprises this low, and Zaccheaus and DJ Moore are that high. It's really just kind of been the Rome Odunze show in Chicago, and and what has happened, and the productivity has been great. It was like 16, 35, 15, 17, bad game, weather game, 21 Draftkings fantasy points. So he looks like a value at price. And then I'm surprised the ownership's coming in that low.
People keep bringing up the DJ Moore rushing role with DeAndre Swift out. Do we think that DJ Moore benefits from a rushing perspective? Obviously, they're facing the Bengals, so if he gets a couple extra carries, like that could go a long way against the Bengals. Does that do anything for you? The lack of DeAndre Swift, do we think that benefits DJ Moore?
Yeah, I think that's that makes sense to me. But it's also he's averaging 0.3 rushing fantasy points per game this year.
Right.
I don't think it moves the needle in a major way.
Okay. All right. Who else? JMO, have you been listening to the coach speak on JMO? Do you think they're going to get him involved?
This is like the most obvious squeaky wheel gets the grease spot I can ever remember. It's like literally the offensive coordinators in tears, weeping into his hands, saying, "I have failed you, Jameson. It's my fault. I'll make it up to you."
Yeah.
And then Jameson was interviewed, and he was like, "Yeah, it's the coach's fault." And he said he's going to make it up to me. So,
I didn't see that. The quote I saw was like, "I'm not bothered. Whatever. I'm JMO. I don't care." Something like that. Interesting.
Okay. Maybe I hallucinated it. Here's the direct quote from John Morton. "I failed him. That's what I told him. I'm like, listen, man, I'm going to do a better job." And then there was also a Dan Campbell quote too before this, that shout out a Coach Speak Index. But yeah, I mean, this is like the ultimate spot. And when you have that for a player like Jameson, I know like putting any money on Jameson's like just never really worked out, but he's a guy who the targets he gets are so valuable, these deep shots. And so if he gets 5 deep targets, which has happened in a game this year, and he catches only 2 of those, that could be a slate breaking score for a player with his big play potential. So I tend to like these, squeaky wheel plays less than everyone else, but I think this is fine at 4,800, 6%. That's probably a good play.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if he was chalky as a result of the squeaky wheel narrative, but he's getting 6% ownership.
Well, we didn't talk about it, but this is like the perfect schematic for St. Brown, who historically owns Brian Flores.
Right.
But
you did talk
Jameson.
about liking Amon-Ra St. Brown too. Yeah, coverage grade not great for JMO.
Well, so the schematic, meaning blitz more so than actual coverage schemes. It's just how often Brian Flores blitzes and Jared Goff, eats the blitz alive and really force feeds the ball to St. Brown.
Okay, makes sense. And you talked about liking St. Brown. What about the other side? Do you like Jefferson or Addison here?
I'm a big Addison guy. This has been like one of my, conviction calls for much of this year and like late last year, is that we're all collectively overrating Jefferson.
Not true.
I know that's sacrilegious, but definitely underrating Jordan Addison. Over their last 12 games together, Addison averages 17.2 fantasy points per game. That's top 12 numbers. Jefferson only 0.8 above that. Addison has outscored Jefferson in 50% of those games. Jefferson is $2K more expensive. No one wants to play Addison. He made us a bunch of money last time I gave him a shout out like this. Should you worry a little bit about the quarterback, but should be a pass heavy spot. Good matchup on paper.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, Addison looks good. 5,800. People brought up Michael Pittman. Do we have interest in Pittman or Alec Pierce or Josh Downs? Anybody?
Your boy.
My boy Alec Pierce.
Your boy Alec Pierce. He's been sneaky good this year. He's hit 65 receiving yards in 4 of 6 games. Over the last 2 weeks, he leads all players in air yards. He has 101 more air yards than anyone else, including Jamar Chase, which is kind of crazy. 15 targets, which is way more than Tyler Warren or anyone else on the team besides Pittman. And it's just a really bad Steelers defense. He only needs one deep shot, really. Here, exit out of Colts and just let it flow through air yards. Yeah, look at that.
That is nuts. Yeah, over 100 more.
And then click on and then type in Colts.
Yep.
And then look at that. Josh Downs 3 target. Well, 1 game, fair enough.
Yeah.
But 15 targets, 5 more than Tyler Warren. So
that's kind of nuts. Yeah, I did not realize that his role was that good recently.
I mean, it could be nothing. It could just be like 2 deep shots, one of which was like a borderline throwaway. But I don't know. I kind of trust. This is what the film bros have been saying. It's like, dude, Alec Pierce is awesome. Alec Pierce is going to get so much money this offseason.
I feel like that's the opposite of his rookie year. I feel like people are like, this guy's trash. Like, I think that like the narrative was like, he's way outperforming how good he is his rookie year. Maybe that was just like one person I heard saying it, but that was like my takeaway his rookie year is like, oh, the film bros don't like Alec Pierce. Maybe he's overrated.
What I'm hearing is, he came into the league very like limited and raw as a route runner, which is like literally what the GM said the day they drafted him, but he's a really good deep threat. And now they're saying this is one of the best deep threats in football. And he's coming along with the other stuff.
Yeah.
But like rich man's Gabe Davis is kind of how they're describing him.
Okay. We'll take that. All right. Who else do we want to talk about here?
Shamir DK Metcalf.
Shamir DK.
He's 3,900.
Okay. And he's getting 3% ownership.
Yeah.
Okay. Has he just surpassed Ayamanor at this point?
I don't know about that. He's kind of in like the T.Y. Hilton role. Where is he like a slot speedster? You haven't seen too much of that in a way that's mattered for DFS, but I was always a big T.Y. Hilton guy. It's just Cam Ward is averaging like nearly 100 more passing yards per game these last 2 weeks since the firing of Brian Callahan. DK hits 16 DK fantasy points in both of those games. Had a season high 8 targets, season high 89% snap share, just his only game over 57%. And it's it's a slight slot funnel matchup. So just another good punt, sub 4K, low ownership.
I feel like this is a slate where I usually have a lot of takes at receiver, and this is one where I'm just kind of like, I don't have any really strong takes. I want your opinion though on Nico Collins without Patrick Surtain. Is that like, I know they don't have an offensive line, so that's never great, but Nico Collins, 5% ownership, 7,100. Does the lack of Surtain do much for you here? Do you like Nico Collins or any of the other Houston receivers?
It's hard for me to get there when they're, the other expensive wide receivers look so much better just at their prices. And I don't really know what's going wrong with Nico Collins. If you just take out that one catch, which was a +3 ass, which is the highest grade you could get, but it was a lot of internal debates over whether that was a busted coverage or he just routed up the guy so bad. But if you take that out, like, he's scored 12 fantasy points 0 times this year or something like that, or just like a really bad year. And I have no explanation for it. And it is a road game, right? I want to make sure I get that right.
So
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's fringe. I just think, we're talking about Puka, Rasheed, Jamar Chase.
Right. A little bit tougher to get there.
It doesn't stand out to me as being worthwhile.
Okay. What else? Any other wide receivers that you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just going to sort by fantasy points per dollar just to make sure I'm not missing anybody obvious. No, I think we've talked about all of the.
I think this is still plays. A good Broncos defense. I think even with that certainty.
Yeah. Tight ends. I think we do have some takes. So yeah, I don't have any strong wide receiver takes. Tight end, I do. Although the ownership does look a little bit more even here than it does elsewhere. We have 5 tight ends here at double-digit ownership. George Kittle at 14%, Theo Johnson 12%, Brock Bowers 12%, Tyler Warren 10%, Tucker Kraft 10%, and then Travis Kelce not far behind at 9%. So let's start with these at the top. George Kittle, I know he is one of your favorite players in the NFL, one of my favorite players in the NFL. He is the chalkiest tight end, though. How much interest at 4,800?
I mean, 14%, he's the chalkiest tight end, but 14% is, nothing prohibitive. I think maybe you do have to knock him a little bit with Mac Jones instead of Brock Purdy. I feel like if this were Brock Purdy, I would be all in. But I mean, he's still a great play. He's only like 300 more than he was last week, which was the cheapest he'd been since 2018. So yeah, he's a good play. He's a great play. Not worried about the ownership.
Theo Johnson getting the second most ownership. I'm just pulling this up for myself to see. So I guess 11 targets over the past 2 weeks for Theo Johnson, 90% route participation. So the role pretty good there for Theo Johnson. Do we think maybe he gets even more heavily targeted with no Cam Scadaboo there? Do we see more go into the other pass catchers? How much interest do you have in $3,500 Theo?
Yeah, I think he's a little overrated. He only has one game over 35 receiving yards this year. So I was kind of surprised to see him as chalky as he was, but according to our projections, he's the best value. So it's probably warranted.
All right. Now I think we're getting to the plays that you and I really like.
Yeah.
We already talked about Brock Bowers a lot at the beginning of the show. To me, 12% is even this is higher than I've seen elsewhere. I think he's mostly single digit projected ownership. Even at 12%, wow. I think he's a smash play at 5,000. Just bet on the health of Brock Bowers. Sounds like we're on the same page there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he's an awesome play. The one concern would be he's limited. He has that brace. If you see a tweet Sunday morning that says Brock Bowers is wearing a knee brace, like pivot off. But all the injury experts I've talked to, I'm very bullish he's back to 100%. And like a back to 100% Brock Bowers at 5K is crazy. And I think this offense has badly missed him. And I think you're going to see like an immediate impact with him back. And yeah, double digit targets, 100+ yards, hopefully.
Yeah. MPH has good call on that knee brace. Actually, yeah, that's a good call. We do need to like monitor the situation. Like if he is wearing a knee brace, maybe we do still need to dock him from when he was fully healthy. But I think
I'm not expecting him to wear a brace. I'm expecting him to be 100% fully healthy.
Right. Tyler Warren, as we talked about earlier, like all of his fantasy production comes in the first half. if they finally get pushed, maybe we finally see Tyler Warren have a big second half as well. How much interest do we have here?
Yeah, he's basically been, this year's Brock Bowers. Just the only difference is, Bowers last year on an offense that ranked top 3 in dropbacks per game, the Colts bottom 7. So this is actually a spot where they're just like average in dropbacks. Like he can really crush. He's looked more like a floor play than a ceiling play this year, where he's hit 70 yards or scored a touchdown in 6 of 8 games, but has a season high of just 18 DraftKings fantasy points. But like, this is the nut spot. Like, Steelers just getting absolutely destroyed by tight ends. So yeah, I could definitely see a big blow up game for Warren this week.
Yep, third best matchup for tight ends over the past 5 weeks in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Tucker Kraft, this seems too much to me, unless we think is it real? Is Tucker Kraft just like, I mean, he's the most expensive tight end on the slate. Carolina has actually been a strong matchup for tight ends. Also, I guess not as much recently. It's actually back down to like close to neutral, but had been for a while a tight end funnel. But he's 5,700 getting 10% ownership. To me, this is like a clear fade, but I also would not be shocked to see him stuff me in a locker. What are you doing with Tucker Kraft?
Yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Okay.
If you read the everything report this week, I spent, I don't know, a lot of time talking about Tucker Kraft and Rondé Gadsden and like, what if this is real, and all the reasons why I kind of do think this is real. I basically called Tucker Kraft like a George Kittle clone.
Yeah.
And I don't make these comps lightly. Like, Kittle's my favorite player in the NFL. I think he's the most underrated offensive player, non-quarterback of the decade. But I just think like I never would have expected this to happen again. And I think it's happened again. I think he's the best yak player I've ever seen. I think he's better than Debo in his prime. I think he's better than Kittle in his prime. And like, there was this really interesting angle from Ryan Heath where all of his like 3 worst games came with him on the injury report, and then his 4 best games, he was off the injury report, and he was averaging like 25 DraftKings fantasy points per game with a Tyler Warren-esque target share, a Trey McBride-esque target share. And so, yeah, it's like, just what if this is real and he's the clear tight end 1 and like massive ceiling, which we've seen from him. The whole issue was he was just never getting the target volume he so clearly deserved. Only 1 game over 7 targets. And then 2 weeks ago, 9 targets, last week, 10 targets. And so, yeah, I think that's something worth leaning into at a position that's otherwise largely devoid of upside. And then you could do the same thing with Rondé Gadsden, where, we're all eager to play, or Lad McConkey was popping, right? Well, it's like, what if Gadsden's the wide receiver 1 or even the wide receiver 2? He looks like Darren Waller 2.0. That's what his tight end coach told us 4 months ago. And just like every week, it looks like that. Just like watch the film, like incredible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's another, that's a tight ends with 100-yard, 6-catch touchdown upside is rare, and it's valuable when you can nail that. So, both of them were lowest on my list where they didn't like immediately pop, but I couldn't hate on anyone for playing them.
Yeah, I think that this is generally a pay up for tight end week. Would you agree with that? Like, relative to most DFS weeks, I'm just interested in playing for these $5,000-ish tight ends and not much else. But maybe you can talk me into some of these lower price tight ends.
I don't know. We're gonna have to see when we build. I haven't built anything yet this week.
Yeah, I haven't either. Somebody, man, who was my guest on the cage match this week? Jake and I had on. I'm totally blanking on.
I watched it.
Oh, it was Jordan Vanek.
There you go. Love Jordan.
And I can't remember if it was Jake or Jordan brought up Juwan Johnson actually was targeted pretty heavily in the second half of last week. So maybe he's still a thing. Do you have any interest in Juwan Johnson?
Yeah, all those guys are fine. If you just sort by fantasy points per dollar, who is it? It's
Theo,
Juwan, Hawkinson, Schultz, Laporta. Good schematic for Laporta. They're all fine. They're just
Hawkinson revenge game 3400.
It's just if you're looking for a 3K tight end who isn't Theo Johnson, And I think there's good reason to do that. Yeah.
Yep.
So Jawan at 3% versus Theo at 12%. Like that's a great play.
Yeah, I guess one of these is probably going to score a lot of fantasy points. It's just like it's tough for me to prioritize them when I like the top end so much. Any other tight ends?
Yeah, I'm legitimately excited about Kyle Pitts.
Ooh, okay. Kyle Pitts 4,200, 6% projected ownership. He's back. He's what we thought he was, right? Coming in 5 years ago.
I don't think he's ever going to be who we hoped he would be. He just has like a way better role, and like Chris was on this very early, but I haven't heard anyone else talk about it. He ranks third in target share. He ranks fifth in XFP per game. Last year, he was 25th in target share, 23rd in XFP. That's a massive step up. And so like last year, people were still trying to talk themselves into playing Kyle Pitts. And this year, like no one wants to touch him because they have PTSD, but it's just clearly like a way better role.
And it's better specifically with Michael Penix, I think. Like last week, I was like, man, I really want to play Kyle Pitts, but like we've just never seen it with Kirk Cousins, and I don't think they did anything. But like he's like best friends with Michael Penix, and Michael Penix like in the offseason was like, I'm gonna get him the ball. We're gonna get Kyle Pitts going. And I wish that I believed him in the offseason, but I didn't. And yeah, I agree. He looks good. Looks like he's really involved. I like that call.
Yeah, I think it's also, I think Darnell Mooney is like seriously hurt. He ranks dead last in ass this year. And so someone said it in the comments, Pitts is the wide receiver 2 in Atlanta. I think that is what's going on.
Right. Anything else? Tight end, or should we build?
Let's build.
All right. We're going to build some lineups. Should we start with the one you're talking about where we try to do a cheap stack?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a 5-5-5 again because we're 1 for 1 on that.
We are.
If we fall in love with the lineup, if only we fall in love.
Are we trying to do Rashee Rice in this one too? Nakua, Chase, St. Brown.
I think it would be. I think it would be St. Brown or Rice.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can fit. So we'll do Monungai and Trevion Henderson, or
and Kareem Hunt.
Oh yeah, Monungai and
especially if no Rashee. They're probably not negatively correlated.
All right, yeah, it might be. Let's see what we can do as far as cheap defenses. Any that you really like here? Do you like, man?
Raiders, maybe.
Raiders, I like that. That seems. We'll start there. We'll try that.
Who did Chris like? Texans, I think, was his favorite. But anyway,
let me see what we can fit if I put in Geno and Bowers.
I mean, you could do Dart.
Well, then we'd have 3,400 left over if we did this lineup.
Is that Parker Washington?
Oh, that might be. Wait.
It fits perfect with the stack.
Oops. He's 3,700.
Right.
Okay.
Can we drop the defense? Does that work?
Then we could do Vikings, Saints, or Panthers.
Saints.
Yeah, I mean we could do that. We've got the stack with a bring back. I think it works. Yeah, I mean we could also swap Amon-Ra to Rashee Rice if you prefer that to do something different.
No, this is a fun lineup.
This is a fun lineup. All right, we got.
This has never worked out for me, by the way. I've done this so many slates.
Jam in the studs. Yeah. It's a little bit of a tough way to build here. But we got to Geno Smith with Brock Bowers, Parker Washington bring back. We've got Kyle Monungai, Kareem Hunt, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and then the Saints defense because we needed to fit one in there. Gets there with $100 left over. I think that's fun. I think it's a really fun lineup. So we'll try it. You could do a variation where you put in Rashee Rice for one of the others, but I think it's got a shot. It's got a shot. We've got some strong value on this slate. We're going to build another one. See, we got two super chats now from Sean. What's up, Sean? Appreciate it. Says, if you did 20 lines, would you fade Puka Nacua? I would not, and I assume Scott would not either.
Like, what does that mean? Fade him on all 20?
I think that's what he means. Yeah.
No, I'd be somewhere around 20%.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. And then he says, and is this a tight end times 2 in a GPP week? So tight end in the flex. I think it might be. Do you agree with that?
I think it can be. But I think probably not. Like if I did 20 lineups, maybe like only 1 or 2 would have a tight end in the flex.
Yeah, like there are enough tight ends that we like on the slate that I think it's viable, but not like a huge priority for me. I'm never one to like set a rule to not have a tight end in the flex. It's kind of like if they project well enough to get in there, then I'll take it. So yeah, I think that's fine. All right, let's build another.
Do you want to do Goff or Allen?
Let's do Goff. I think that's a little bit more like off the wall. Fewer people doing it because everybody's gonna be stacking the other game.
All right. Give me Amon-Ra. Give me JMO for the coach speak.
Yes.
And give me Addison on the bring back.
Deal. All right, I've got 5,000 left per pick. Let's see. What else do we want to do here? So we've got the full stack with a bring back. We could maybe do some like mini correlations here. What are we thinking? We could do.
So Sean Preston said if you did 20 lines, fade Nakua, and then MPH made a. You'd have to do 20 lines to fade Nakua.
That's funny. That is
funny. A cocaine joke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's risky. It's risky fading a guy like Puka Nakua. So we could put in CMC and the San Francisco defense potentially. You really like Darius Slayton. Do we want to put him in the flex?
We could save that for our dart lineup.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go with Bijan? I know you like Bijan at low ownership.
Go Bijan. I mean, yeah, let's go Bijan. Let's go.
Manungai. You like Kareem Hunt at lower ownership.
Actually,
I mean,
let's go CMC 49ers D. I like that call.
Okay.
Get around Dart, Theo Johnson, Tracy. In theory, at least.
Yep. All right, we've got 4,300 left per pick. I mean, we could still do like
Manungai. Let's go more unique enough. Let's go Manungai.
Yeah, I think this is. You're right. This is we've got contrarian. Now we can lean in on some chalkier pieces. We could do Bowers. We could.
Yeah, let's try and do Bowers if we can.
Then we have 3,300 left for our flex. Which, yeah, not Olamide Zacchaeus is there.
Nah, I don't want to do that.
Okay. So instead of Bowers, we could. I mean, if we go to Kittle, we'd have 3,500, which would be Hawkinson.
Well, Hawkinson fits with the stack.
True. Yeah, double bring back.
Or Loveland. We didn't talk about him in a best possible matchup. I don't love him, but you know, he Jawan we also talked about.
True. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Cole Kmet coming back.
Right, but still, it's like it's the Bengals.
So we could do
Jawan, yeah.
Jawan and Bowers.
Oh, a double tight end? No. You could do Tracy. Oh, Montgomery.
Montgomery with the Goff double. Do we like that?
I mean, it's an onslaught, right? So they score 5 touchdowns and then
or Trevion Henderson also.
Duty.
If we wanted, we could also do Trevion.
All right. I'm fine with either way. Yeah, probably Trevion, I guess, makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. I don't think we have any like need to swap here. We could swap up Manungai to Kareem Hunt, I think, if we wanted to, but I think Manungai, like you said, we have enough contrarian juice here that we don't necessarily need to be going more contrarian. I think it looks good. Goff, Amon-Ra, JMO, Addison bring back. We've got McCaffrey with the 49ers lineup. Defense, we've got Kyle Manungai, one off, Jawan Johnson, Trevion Henderson. Boom. Millie winner. And then you want to do a Jackson Dart lineup. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Jackson Dart with Slayton. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Are we doing just a skinny?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a bring back. It could be Kittle or CMC, I think.
Okay. Let's put CMC in there for now. I mean, we could do a double bring back too if we wanted to. But let's see what else we want to fit in here. What other wide receiver? I mean, we can probably afford to pay up for a receiver with this cheap stack. So in this lineup, I don't have a clear preference on. I mean, we could start with Rashee Rice, I guess, is the cheapest. We haven't done him yet. Or if you want, we could do.
Let's do Chase. We could do a double. We could throw Theo Johnson on here for more value.
Okay.
Let's get unique here. Let's go Bijan or Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's gonna have two of these guys, right? Because
Yeah.
What was the first lineup we made? We wanted to jam all the wide receivers.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to do.
Bijan.
Let's try Bijan.
We'll need Parker Washington probably, but that's fine.
Yep, he's what, 3,700?
Yeah.
Now we've got 3,800 left per pick.
What's the cheapest defense we can get?
2,000 Panthers.
All right, let's go with Raiders.
Raiders. All right. Again, enough for Trevion, Bowers,
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. If we do Kareem Hunt, if
do
we do
Kareem
Kareem Hunt,
Hunt.
we could actually do the. What do you think of the Texans defense? Yeah.
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do that.
Love it. There you go. Jackson Dart with Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson. Bring back of Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase one-off, Parker Washington, Kareem Hunt, Texans defense. No money left over. Beauty. Look at that. All right. There you go. 3 lineups. Easy game. A lot of different players involved. 3 different stacks with those lineups. We win in the middle with one of these?
No, Josh Allen lineup wins the millie. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we probably min cash with one of these.
Yeah,
we got that. We got that going for us. All right. This is fun. Scott, anything else that you want to shout out before we get out of here?
Nope. Thanks for listening or watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Again, please like the video if you haven't done so. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but also sign up for Fantasy Points if you haven't already done so. Use promo code OTB15 to get 15% off already reduced prices for the rest of the season. Make sure you check that out. Everything that we've looked at here, the data suite there, really, really valuable, but also there's a lot of great content behind the paywall as well. And of course, you can join the Fantasy Points Discord once you sign up. Thanks, everybody. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.